August 20th, trains have been blown up near Moscow. Moscow and St. Petersburg are paralyzed by the explosion. The AFU are blowing up train stations and airports. Railways have been sabotaged. Boom, bada boom. The AFU are striking Rostov, the Moscow region, Moscow, Samara, and petrochemical facilities. There are drone wreckage on the tracks. 132 trains have been delayed. People are spending the night at train stations. Operation Web continues. Railways and essential power plants are currently being blown up and destroyed.
It really blew up. Right by the bridge.
Collapse. Moscow is left without power. A total blackout. A carpet plan in the sky. Sheremetyevo is canceling hundreds of flights to Domodedovo. Passengers are having meltdowns in St. Petersburg and Moscow, chaos at the airports. A series of explosions in Kursk. A factory in St. Petersburg is burning brightly. Summer action. Breaking news, friends. A series of explosions in Moscow, St. Petersburg, the Moscow region, and other regions of Russia. The carpet plan implemented Sheremetyevo, Vnukovo, and Domodedovo. There are large-scale evacuations going on there.
And these are the kinds of lines.
Huge crowds of disgruntled Muscovites. Please just calm down, everyone. You really need to calm down now. All of you. What are you guys doing over there? You've kept us here for 2 days. Here, look, just as planned. In the Moscow region, rockets are crashing into apartment buildings.
There's no tiling by the building. Something definitely hit there.
Really? Right here with us?
I live there, and something really did hit there.
What do you mean? The roof is on fire? Wait, the roof is on fire? Seriously?
Don't you truly think that we are gradually turning into a situation reminiscent of Donbass? And quite fundamentally, in the bedroom, we were incredibly fortunate and genuinely lucky because...
Moscow's air defense worked on Moscow apartments.
So that there would be a good curtain. The glass basically flew straight into it all at once.
And in St. Petersburg and the regions near that city, military factories were attacked. Burn bright so it doesn't go out.
Right now there are firefighters and ambulances here. I think a fragment just flew off.
Ukraine is preparing ballistic and cruise missiles so that they can reach key military targets in Moscow, the Moscow region, and St. Petersburg. Two explosions occurred in the morning near the Desantnaya Bay area outside Vladivostok. Previously, large landing ships of the Pacific Fleet conducted exercises there. Friends, glory to the armed forces of Ukraine. And the cherry on top, there is a state coup being prepared in Russia. Moreover, the elites in Putin's inner circle are involved in this. Catherine III. Sources from the VCHK Gubo public channel have confirmed that Putin's closest advisor is promoting the idea that his daughter should become the new head of Russia as early as 2026. The advisor to the Russian dictator, Mikhail Kovalchuk, is actively convincing Putin himself that his daughter, Ekaterina Tikhonova, should take this role. Insiders claim that one of these women should run in the early presidential elections of 2026 as an independent candidate. We will discuss all of this with top analyst Alexander Demchenko right now. Russia is paralyzed. Drones are striking Rostov, Moscow, the Moscow region, Samara, and petrochemical facilities. There are drone wreckage on the tracks. 132 trains have been delayed. People are spending the night at train stations. The carpet plan is in effect in the sky. Sheremetyevo cancels hundreds of flights. Panic among passengers at Domodedovo, confirmed by video. Chaos at airports in St. Petersburg and Moscow. Panic in Istanbul. Flights are cancelled. Luggage is lost. In the Moscow region, elite settlements are flooded. And in Moscow, the river has overflowed its banks. In general, Moscow is going underwater, just like it used to happen with St. Petersburg. And in Novorossiysk, oil tankers are exploding. The Kremlin is so afraid that Putin himself has ordered the FSB to inspect every vessel. Is this a new phase of the war or a total collapse within Russia? We'll break it down together with top analyst Alexander Demchenko. Sasha, hello.
Hello, Dasha. Hello, everyone.
I've got some good news for you today. I suggest we start with the railways because we're hitting the railways, we're hitting the energy sector. And now there's a total collapse not only in aviation but also on the railways. What do you think?
You want to start with the railways, but I want to start with Putin, you see? I'll allow myself to do that. You see, Dasha, you say the railways are paralyzed, the airports are paralyzed. I keep sitting here thinking to myself, God, when will Vladimir Putin be paralyzed? Can you imagine? We wake up and Putin is paralyzed, Putin has been paralyzed. Power in the country shifts. The question is, to whom? So I think, judging by the leaks, tomorrow the negotiations begin, the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. So to whom does the power transfer? The power goes to his daughter. It turns out Medinsky, either he's sleeping with her or they're just friends, or maybe he's just putting ideas into her head. But Vladimir Medinsky, as it turns out, has become the closest associate of Ekaterina Tikhonova, Vladimir Putin's daughter. It turns out she's now also the main person in charge of ideology. We just couldn't figure out what exactly is Medinsky doing in that delegation in Istanbul. Why is he constantly leading it? Now it's clear why. Turns out the daughter put him there. I don't know whether their relationship is romantic or not, but it's obvious that this partnership will go far. As for the railways, obviously Ukraine, they were shouting so loudly saying there would be a new wave, a new offensive in a month or a month and a half. So where is it? What happened to that offensive? Did it all fizzle out, fail, stall? Yeah, they promised to take Sumy, Kherson, Zaporizhia. So where is it? And how did it go? So what? To reach the borders of Donetsk region. So where is it? And how did it go? And what then? Why are there strikes on the railways? Let me explain. We are disrupting, directly disrupting, Dasha. Every single day we will disrupt, day after day, and harder and harder and harder. Every single day we will keep hammering them. Offensive plans are being disrupted. The summer-autumn campaign is already being derailed, and groundwork is being laid to bring Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table. Because if this year he still doesn't get what he intended to get, then he'll have to. They'll force him to sit at that negotiating table, and he'll sign a peace agreement. But it will only be a pause in the war, nothing more. But this is the beginning of a fateful stage. And I think that the coming days will be the most turbulent, in principle, in terms of the war, and the most decisive in terms of the war. And I think that the finale of Trump's ultimatum will be a big fireworks display, a grand salute. Putin will be sitting in Beijing, watching the fireworks over Moscow. As all of Moscow explodes and burns where Domodedovo is, the pagoda of Sergei Kuzhugetovich Shoigu will be ablaze with rockets. I think if anyone believes that Ukraine will strike Shoigu's house with rockets, no, Ukraine doesn't need that. But Putin does need it. Putin will take out Shoigu with anti-missiles, then blame everything on Ukraine, and so on. You mentioned the FSB, that all the ports are coming under FSB control. That's important. Indeed, Putin has expanded the scope of martial law. Previously, for some reason, he imposed martial law only on Ukrainian territory. So, the Ukrainian regions that are occupied, Crimea, all of Donbass, Kherson, Zaporizhia, that's where he has imposed martial law. And even in Crimea, I think, not completely. And now he's extended martial law to the ports as well. So what happened? Why did he extend it to the ports? What does the FSB have to do with it? Let me explain. There's no money, no one to hold on, nothing, and no reason to hold on. The FSB gets the money. Where can the security forces get money? Well, they went after the ports, after transportation, after exports, imports, and cargo shipping. Soon they'll go after watermelons, shipping and selling them by barge. Well, so the situation is turning out to be unfavorable. Well, for some profound and deeply unsettling reason, I have a very strong and undeniable feeling that there will be a truly formidable and incredibly tough response emerging very soon. In the immediate and foreseeable future, I genuinely think that the great city of Moscow itself will be engulfed in flames, that countless devastating missiles will be relentlessly flying through the air, striking their targets with immense force and precision. I don't know if they'll be Ukrainian missiles or Ukrainian missiles with American components, but the fact that it will be a large combined attack seems obvious to me. And the fact that Ksenia Sobchak is already coming out and telling everyone that the center of Moscow is shutting down and evacuating, that generals are moving air defense systems to their cottages out there, well, on Rubliovka. This only indicates, first of all, that half of the elite is dissatisfied with Putin. Second, that Muscovites need to run away. Putin has abandoned them. He apparently built himself a mega bunker recently in the Skali. Damn, he built himself a bunker underground. Listen, he built a bunker in the Skali, set everything up for himself there. He's not in Moscow. Putin has a mega bunker. It's insane. And so Ksenia Sobchak told everyone that the center of Moscow is being evacuated, the business center is being evacuated, the security forces are being evacuated. Everyone knows everything. Everyone is moving everything. They're going to defend their homes. Putin is gone? Well, there's only one thing left to wait for. A missile strike and the arrest of Ksenia Sobchak. There's nothing else to expect in Moscow, in my opinion.
about Rubliovka and the air defense systems. So do we really understand that Putin's inner circle on Rubliovka are bringing in private air defense systems, or are these state air defense systems?
Of course they're state-owned. Why on earth would they have private air defense systems? They took them. They have air defense. The air defense protects Putin. Putin is gone. Where are they supposed to keep these air defense systems now? Why would they bother protecting the Kremlin or Red Square? The bigger and more spectacular the explosion, the better it is for them. Your boom bada boom. That's exactly why they've now taken these air defense systems and sent them to their own places. But they're making a mistake by doing that. Today, for example, he went after the vice governor of the Bryansk region. I think it was the Bryansk region. He also stole from the Dragon's Tooth, from all those defensive structures and so on. He already got rid of Starovoy, shot him, shot himself, first raped, then shot, didn't want to pull the trigger, so he had to beat the person to death. He also went after representatives of the Bryansk region. And in the Bryansk region, that's also a border area, that's also generals. So they're making a mistake by doing this. As soon as Putin overhauls the entire border region, replaces all the ministers involved with them, and the security officials who were mixed up with them, then he'll go after the generals who stole air defense and missile defense systems and set them up near their dachas for protection. But the fact that they're doing this signals only one thing, Dasha. It signals that they don't care about Putin. If there's a coup in Moscow, a government coup, if tanks start rolling toward Moscow, they won't care about that either. If, say, the collective clan of the Rotenberg brothers, or, Timchenko and the Rotenbergs, decide to do something, to flip the chessboard in the Kremlin, to stage a coup and remove Putin and his Kovalchuks, no one will stand in their way. And the generals won't stand in their way either. They'll only support it. This just shows the complete decay and fragmentation of the Russian Moscow authorities. That's it, nothing more. And do you want that? Tell me, you're sitting here not even smiling. Do you want missile strikes on Moscow or not?
I think every Ukrainian wants that. These are really rhetorical questions, and everyone knows the answers.
Well, will they happen or not? So, what does your intuition and your knowledge tell you?
I don't know how much we depend on Europe and America when it comes to authorizing strikes. I don't know with American or European missiles on Russian territory, for example, on major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg. I don't know if we have enough of our own ballistic production, talking to military analysts, for us to be able to do this independently. I would really like it if we didn't have to ask anyone, if we had so many ballistic missiles that we could just do this every night, 100 or 200 strikes. But the question is, as they say, do we have that capability?
That capability will appear soon. I'm telling you, closer to September, no one will be waiting 50 days. There will be a festive salute from the 3rd to the 4th of September. The calendar will be flipped. Again the 3rd of September, then again the 3rd of September, and again the 3rd of September. Yes. But the point is, you see, closer to the 3rd of September, it's going to get very hot in Moscow and St. Petersburg. There will be tremendous heat, the climate conditions will be absolutely terrible, and there will be nothing to breathe in Moscow and the Moscow region. But Dasha, I think that even before that, there will be a whole series of important special operations by Ukraine, both to disrupt offensive actions directly in the rear, to sow panic, and sabotage operations, and there will be retaliation for everything these stinking Russian occupiers have done recently. And for today's Odessa, and for Sumy, and for the recent attacks on Kyiv, Lutsk, Ivano-Frankivsk, and the list goes on. This morning people wrote to me while I was also broadcasting, asking, what about Kherson? Have you forgotten about Kherson? We haven't forgotten about Kherson, friends. That's our native Kherson, and no one is going to take it. Ukraine has liberated it and will not give it up to anyone now. Kherson is Ukrainian, and we have not forgotten. There will be payback for Kherson, and it will be very, very harsh.
Yes, everyone is already writing that, by the way, Shoigu has disappeared somewhere. And the question is, where is Shoigu? You told me about this too.
In the morgue. Oh Lord, I shouldn't have said that. In the morgue. Do you understand, Dasha? Well, obviously he disappeared. Of course, maybe he's not in the morgue. Maybe everything's fine. But the point is, Dasha, he's scared. He's trembling. You don't even understand what's going on, those people who are asking. Shoigu had an entire clan, a whole clan. The Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Emergency Situations, entire regions like Tuva. Everything was under Shoigu's control, absolutely everything, with multi-billion-dollar flows. And just like that, no more Shoigu. Now they're taking down the very last of them. His governor, his vice-governors, his deputies, they're wiping out all the local deputies, the local government in the region, in his home region. And soon, very soon, they'll go after his shamans, the ones he used to take Putin to. And they'll destroy all those shamans, cut off their heads, or send them, like Shaman Gabishev, to a psychiatric hospital. They'll take Dronov, that shaman, and send him there too, along with Mizulina. It's about time. Putin doesn't need them. But you see, Dasha, Shoigu has disappeared, vanished. He might show up or he might not. Maybe he went to China, maybe to North Korea. They say they're closing down the most elite resort there. It's the only one, the most exclusive resort they have in Pyongyang. They'll be shutting it down soon. Kim Jong-un has no money. He gave everything to the Russian Federation. Maybe Shoigu is already there? Maybe he's soaking his feet somewhere next to Kim Jong-un. It's safer for him there. Believe me, it's safer for him there than next to Putin. I'm telling you, if there's a missile attack, Putin will take advantage of it. He'll fire his anti-missile right at the pagoda, at Shoigu's house. Well, then Shoigu will be gone. That's it. Because things are going badly for him. He's been destroyed. He's been gutted. Everyone around him has been eliminated. They've all been arrested. Some have probably disappeared, like his deputy Shvetsova disappeared, the woman who was responsible for finances and had ties to the tax authorities, and for a very long time was the liaison with the FSB on behalf of Shoigu and the Ministry of Defense. Where the hell is she? She outlived the former Minister of Defense, outlived, but partly did not outlive Shoigu, and then disappeared in an unknown direction. A man simply disappeared? Well, Timur Ivanov. And then further down the list, Salikov. How many of these people are there already? And then it goes. And I think that Shoigu will of course be torn apart, and publicly. It will be a public execution, and he has only himself to blame for it. A man who could have outsmarted Putin, but instead of outplaying him, instead of taking power into his own hands, instead of strengthening his own position, instead of trying to change the situation in Russia, and he could have done it. Now he is left all alone in proud solitude. He says he feels cold and lonely. And the secretaries of the Security Council, just today, Putin's friend, Podnosova, the head of an important court, yes, the main court in Russia, the Supreme Court, has died. So what? And Putin's classmate, 71 years old, Putin is 72, Stalin died at 73. So we are approaching that milestone. But Shoigu isn't young either, and I think something could be arranged for him. As Professor Solovey said, the heart of an old warrior might not hold out. It just might not. Right now, strange things are happening in Russia. People are being thrown out of windows and from their own apartments. People are committing suicide, shooting themselves, even though before that they were tortured, subjected to torture. And now even Shoigu has disappeared. Well,
And what do you expect from the negotiations?
I don't expect anything. Medinsky will strip and put on a striptease. A striptease for the poor in front of the Americans once again. Why is Putin doing this?
Yes.
Why is Putin doing this? He's trying to buy time. He's showing, look, I'm normal, I'm not crazy. See, I'm going to negotiations, so please, just no sanctions. No need for tariffs, don't touch China. Let's meet in Beijing, the three of us, you, me, Xi, and talk on Tiananmen Square, where the communists killed a hell of a lot of people, crushed them with tanks. Let's meet, talk, settle things, Yalta style, all that. Trump and Melania don't need this. But Putin is stalling for time. Zelensky has set the goal of freeing prisoners of war, various detainees, and moreover, I think the issue of children is still on the agenda. It's the main one, or at least one of the main ones. And of course, this is about the configuration of a future meeting between Zelensky and Putin. This doesn't suit Putin for now, but he needs to buy time. But Putin doesn't have the ability to stall for time, because no one is going to fall for all these negotiations with Ushkin and Medinsky anymore. By the way, have you noticed that Kirill Dmitriev has disappeared? Well, what do you mean, disappeared? He doesn't negotiate anymore. He writes tweets, appears somewhere on various Russian media platforms, but he's not really there. He's not a negotiator. He was negotiating, and now he's no longer needed. The American side is no longer interested in investments. Now it's Medinsky. Now even Medinsky isn't of interest to Rutte, to Trump, to the Europeans, to anyone. So what happens next? The point is, this imitation won't surprise anyone anymore, won't impress anyone, and no one will fall for it. With each passing day, Putin has less and less time. And if he doesn't sit down at the negotiating table himself and sign everything personally, it's over for him. And the Russian regime, it's over for the Russian regime too. Do you understand? We talk about a coup d'etat, and many people say that a coup needs to be planned. A coup d'etat happens just like that, in a matter of minutes, in a matter of seconds, in a matter of hours. When, for example, the Tsar's son leaves the room and doesn't see his father being killed. When Joseph Stalin's personal security detail finally approaches him, and at Lavrenti Beria's specific and chilling request, they cruelly allow the ailing dictator to slowly and agonizingly die in a putrid puddle of his own bodily fluids and waste. When with Andropov, due to kidney problems, some very strange things happen. When Gorbachev is suddenly locked up in Foros, or maybe not locked up at all. When Yeltsin, out of the blue, when no one expects it, says, "I'm tired, I'm leaving." Or rather, not leaving, he just said that he was tired. But moving on. It happens just like that, in a matter of seconds, in a matter of hours. So there's no need to think that some kind of coup needs to be planned. It will happen in Russia, because the way things are developing there now, the situation is heading in that direction. All these situations are pushing the Russian regime, the elite, part of the elite, toward a coup. Even without Trump and without Ukraine, all of this will burst. It can't last forever. There has to be a climax, and it will happen soon in the coming weeks. Just wait.
Sasha, regarding the aviation collapse, I saw that the relevant ministers came to Putin with a report saying the situation is catastrophic and they can't change anything. So what is happening now in the aviation industry and in the railway sector is just a shock for Russia. And I'm curious, after this, will the elites be capable of anything, or are they satisfied with this kind of situation?
No. If we think that after this the elites will grab Mauser rifles and go shoot at Putin and overthrow the government in the Kremlin, no, that's not going to happen. Yes, they are losing money. But at the same time, the people who coordinate all these flows are also losing their place in the sun, their lives, their freedom. Right now, it's basically dangerous to be a minister. At this point, it's generally dangerous to be any kind of high-ranking official responsible for one or another completely failing sector. And in Russia, all sectors of the Russian economy are failing, at least the civilian part of the economy. And the defense industry has come to a halt, by the way. Do they realize that they're trapped in a pit where Putin will shoot and hang them? Yes, they do. Can they do anything about it? No. Because any attempt to leave or escape will be punished by public execution. Publicly. In front of everyone. It will be an execution in front of everyone. For example, if Lavrov wants to run away, they'll kill him, hang him in public, and put him in the pillory. If Peskov shaves his mustache and tries to escape with secret documents, the same thing will happen to him. Even Mizulina won't be spared. The problem is that Putin first made everyone sign in blood to start the full-scale war, and now they're forced to swallow that blood. And now they're going to drown in that blood. They'll drown in what they signed up for themselves. Because it's important to understand that Putin doesn't need any of them. All the oligarchs he's wiped out, the propagandists he'll soon wipe out as well. His own oligarchs and wealthy people whom he's starting to erase, beginning with the Rotenbergs, his ministers, his deputies, whom he wants to replace with ordinary Russian occupiers who are completely brainless, won't make any decisions. And in fact, he doesn't need the State Duma at all. Some senators whom he started removing out of the blue. Governors and vice-governors like Lesin among the governors, and generals who profited during the border war. Everyone. All the masks are off. Do you understand? Putin has started a vendetta. Putin has started killing his own people. Now the madness of Ivan the Terrible, Stalin, all those tyrants has finally descended upon him. There is no other way forward. I don't envy them, all those people who supported the war, because now they will become victims of the regime they supported, the regime they nurtured and maintained all these long years.
The fact that Putin is sending the FSB to inspect ships in ports, he is afraid of attacks. Or why, after the tanker explosions, did Putin order the FSB to thoroughly inspect all ships in the ports? His level of fear is off the charts. The control is no longer just military, but forceful, almost paranoid. What could be behind Putin's order to inspect every vessel? Is he afraid of sabotage, or does he simply no longer trust his close associates, his inner circle, and air defense?
No, look, there are two components here. First, of course, he is afraid that there might be some kind of provocation. It's not for nothing that they've locked down all of Kamchatka, fearing that there could be some sabotage in the ports where the Pacific Fleet is stationed. It's not for nothing that there have been massive, truly large-scale special operations by Ukrainian forces and intelligence agencies in the Desantnaya Bay area, where part of the Russian Federation's Pacific Fleet is also located. All of this has already happened. That's exactly why Vladimir Putin fully understands that it's necessary to inspect ships, to inspect cargo, to check what is being transported, and so on and so forth. In other words, he imposed martial law. This is important. He extended martial law. So essentially, we are gradually approaching the point where Vladimir Putin might extend martial law, not only to these facilities, but, for example, to civilian airports, and then to Moscow, then to St. Petersburg, and even to the Patriarch's Ponds. A separate republic within the republic will be under martial law and will be sent to fight and rot for free in Ukrainian soil. Or not only in Ukrainian soil. After all, the plans are Napoleonic, grand, large scale. But you see, Dasha, there's another aspect. This is what I've said and keep repeating. Russia has no money. We don't know what will happen in September. Maybe Putin will just come out and say, there's no money, that's it, we're ending this mess called war. We don't know. But Dasha, there's an important point. Putin has no money. If Putin has no money, that means there's none for the security forces either. So it's necessary to find that money somewhere because his power is held up, is based on the security forces, specifically on the FSB, not on the generals, not on the military, not on the Ministry of Emergency Situations, not on the FSB border guards, specifically on the FSB. So now everything has to go to the FSB and his own security service, his personal guards, and their subsidiaries. These are the three things that you know how it is. There's a budget. Let's say you have a budget. And to be successful, you have several plans and you need to satisfy them. You spread 30% everywhere, keep 10% for yourself. It's the same here. Give some to the subsidiaries. Give some to the FSB. Give some to the security. Keep a little for yourself, stash it away somewhere. That's it. Or later, take it all from everyone. When the time comes, or like with Surgutneftegas, where Putin has his own separate wallet, where he has hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars hidden away in that company, untouchable for anyone in Russia. It's his own personal gold vein. But Dash, do you understand? There's no money. You have to get money from somewhere. How do you get it? By killing ministers, by redistributing the flows. Where do you give it to the FSB? How do you get more money for them? You have to stick them somewhere. Where do you stick them if everything is already stuck everywhere? You're not going to kill the Rotenbergs, are you? You're not. You're not going to destroy them completely, right? Until you do. You're not going to, destroy some other ministers. Moreover, now other ministers remember this destruction of the old war. You won't. What should be done? Give the FSB a feeding trough. Where can I get this feeder? It doesn't work with the airports because they are in collapse. 1,000 flights in 3 days. Everything is at a standstill, like a carpet. Where else can you get it? Well, of course, the ports, of course, cargo transportation, shipping, of course, everything under sanctions, of course, the river fleet, of course, oil, of course, coal, of course, fertilizers, of course, food products, well, of course, export and import. Well, of course, there. And what will they do there? They'll shamelessly steal from everyone. Everyone who comes in and everyone who goes out. That's a good source of income. As long as it keeps working, they'll keep quiet. And when they start getting less and less money, while getting fatter and fatter off the war, and everyone else grows poorer and more destitute, they'll start to wonder, give us more. But there won't be anything left to give. And then what? Then they'll stage a coup themselves and remove Vladimir Putin. Because what no one seems to understand is that Vladimir Putin is nothing more than an executor. He's the keeper of the common fund. He holds the money, other people's money. He holds the money of the Lubyanka, and he always has. He does what they want over there. He's dependent on that monster, on the KGB. He himself is a product of the KGB and was put in place by the KGB to do what the people in the KGB want. And that's exactly what he's doing. And when he can no longer do that, they'll put in a new, young, promising lieutenant colonel or colonel. He won't be called Putin, but something like Putin or whatever else. And once again, there will be order and stability in Russia.
Stash, this is a very important question, but before that, friends, please like this video and write a few kind words to our tandem Dasha plus Sasha, Sasha plus Dasha. Write in the comments what you think about the situation as a whole. We'll write about the geography of our viewers. Sash, what is it that concerns all of us? And what will Trump do then? Because once again, we understand that in September, the Senate has to vote or not vote, and Trump has to either fly or not fly to Beijing. Question? After yet another failed round of negotiations in terms of a ceasefire, which is very important, what actions might Trump, our European partner, take when he sees that once again Putin has deceived him, tricked him, and so on?
Listen, there's nothing new to expect there. He said he would close the Ukrainian sky and supply Ukraine with Patriots, and they won't be sent to Ukraine in just 1 week. It's a process. Obviously, Donald Trump will be supplying Ukraine with weapons so that Ukraine can strike Moscow. It wasn't for nothing that he told Zelensky, why aren't you striking? No weapons? Well, fine, I'll give you some. Obviously, he will be preparing not just one special operation for Ukraine, a joint American-Ukrainian or American-European, a large global Ukrainian special operation while Putin will be dancing in Tiananmen Square with Xi Jinping in Beijing. But the point is, this will happen. Isn't that enough? And what about the sanctions he's planning to impose? Look, the Indians are already getting nervous. Right now, negotiations between India and the US are very difficult because Trump wants to impose a 26% tariff. The Indians don't want that. And now he's saying, if you trade with Russia and buy Russian oil instead of mine, or say oil from Guyana or somewhere else, then you'll get hit with a 100% or even 126% tariff. Tell me, do the Indians even need that? No. What will they do? Will they refuse Russian oil, or will they buy much less of it at an even bigger discount? And what about Indonesia? What will happen with Indonesia? And Japan, which just out of the blue bought its first batch of Russian oil. Will it keep buying it? No. And will South Korea be trading in it? No. And what about, for example, Turkey, the Caucasus countries, or the countries of Central Asia? Will they do anything? No. Will the hub in Turkey remain as it is now? No. Will the situation in the Black Sea region change? Yes. Will Russian goods still be transported by trucks through Bulgaria into Turkey? Not as much, there will be far fewer of them. Everything will shrink to the bare minimum. Can Putin's economy survive without all of this? No. So even that is a lot. That is already a lot. Biden hasn't given Ukraine 17 Patriot systems, despite all his support. This one will. We all used to joke saying, well, maybe 3 or 4 launchers, 17 full-fledged systems, 5 of them are being taken just from Switzerland. The Swiss are in shock saying, damn, we never expected this at all. There you go, just from Switzerland alone, 5 units. Germany said it will immediately transfer 2 units now, and so on. He'll find them and deliver. Is that not enough? Considering that he's also dealing with a huge, listen, I'm not defending him. I don't like many of his decisions. I'm not a Trump supporter by nature. I'm not a Democrat, by the way. But Dash, you see, the point is this. You have to work with the administration that's in place. You have to appreciate what you have, and you have to work to make sure there's more, and more of it. Right now, the ball is in Putin's court, but the score is suddenly in Ukraine's favor. Yes, he's shooting. Yes, he's tormenting. Yes, he's terrorizing the ordinary Ukrainian civilian population. Everyone can see this. It's clear even to the Trump administration. Thank God Melania turned out to be a decent, kind-hearted woman, a lady, a first lady who was helped to see this, and who is now helping Trump to see and recognize all of it as well. But the point is that right now Putin has problems, and these problems are serious, and these problems will only grow and escalate day by day. And that's good news. If Trump does what he promised and Congress helps him with this and even pushes further, then I think Putin is in for some very, very dark days in the coming months. This August is going to be very dark and unpleasant for him. And if August is dark, then September will be the last.
Sasha, this is a very important point. You always say that most likely Trump won't fly to Beijing. Today, as I was preparing for this interview with you, I saw that Trump's special aide and Xi's aide are discussing a meeting in Beijing. So could it actually take place after all? And what kind of signal would that send to the world?
First of all, they're discussing a meeting at other events at the end of October or the beginning of November. From October 30th to November 1st, that's the first thing. Second, at one of the summits. Second, and it doesn't have to be in Beijing. Second, there could be a separate meeting in Beijing, but without Putin. They have a huge number of issues that need to be resolved. He won't gather with the 3 of them there because he understands perfectly well that it is China orchestrating Russia's war against Ukraine. That the Taiwan issue needs to be resolved with China. The issue of global security as a whole needs to be resolved with China. The issue of Iran needs to be resolved with China. What does Russia have to do with it? Russia is making trouble, but it's not the one running the show. Beijing has been running the show for a long time now. Here, Russia is subordinate and dependent, very dependent in fact. Let me remind you that the entire Russian Federation's piggy bank, the so-called National Wealth Fund, is in yuan. The money is in yuan, not in rubles, not in dollars, not in euros, but in yuan. Russia is completely dependent on China. China is behind all of this. And North Korea, the whole Korean situation, the Korean peninsula, all of it is directly connected to China and its decisions, to Xi's decisions. And Trump will meet with him and discuss a whole range of issues, negotiating. About the global economy, about fentanyl, about Europe, about security in the Middle East, Latin America, Africa, yes, about Russia and Ukraine, about the war, about many things, about Taiwan, the Pacific region. You see, I'm listing a lot, and I could list even more and more. So why do they need Putin there? For what? So he can just be a bystander and take notes, keep track of how many problems there are that still need to be dealt with? No. Will Putin try to cause trouble? Will he try to drive a wedge? Will he try to make sure that their relationship between Beijing and Washington doesn't improve and try to set them against each other so that there would be a war between China and the US? Yes, that's what Stalin did too. They all did that. So what? Let them try. Russia has long ceased to be the Soviet Union. And what we see now is very reminiscent of the end of Soviet power. When the KGB, out of the blue, by removing yet another leader and trying to regain power for itself, attempted to stage a so-called rematch with the old communists and suddenly began organizing provocations, sabotage, explosions, resistance, and revolutions on the territory of the former Soviet republics. What is happening now separately in Belarus, in Ukraine, in Kazakhstan, in Armenia, in Georgia, and already in Azerbaijan reminds me of what was happening back then. Maybe everything we are seeing is actually not just a series of random events, but rather a large-scale campaign aimed at undermining Vladimir Putin's regime, at its total destruction, So I want many people now to look at this situation from this point of view, from this perspective. It seems to me very interesting and unusual. In any case, there is definitely something to think about.
Sasha, I want to end our stream today with a statement from Senator Lindsey Graham so that you can comment on it. Putin, your turn will come. Trump is going to kick your ass. On Fox News. The American politician reminded that Donald Trump intends to impose tariffs on those who buy Russian oil, primarily China, India, and Brazil, which account for about 80% of the exports. He added that Trump is tired of this game. If I were in Putin's place, I'd hurry up and sit down at the negotiating table, Graham emphasized. What do you think?
I'll say that Graham probably really wants Putin to be gone. The destruction of the Putin regime. No one in the States is as happy about it, you see? As for the possibility that Putin might soon be gone, Graham, in my opinion, he really wants it. 500%, 1,000%. He wants to push and strangle until it's done. That's what old school, old Cold War mentality means and so on. You see, Dasha, I think Graham is right. I think Putin is going to get his ass kicked. I think China is going to betray Putin. I think Washington will make a deal with China, with Beijing, behind Moscow's back. I think this will be a shock for Putin. Shock therapy, shock content, right? That's when he'll see how he was truly betrayed on September 3rd. So he'll be sitting there in Beijing, letting off some little dragons, dutifully covering up Xi Jinping's wife, as he so often likes to do. And in the end, he'll witness a major failure while being outside of Russia. Maybe he won't come back to Russia from China? Who knows? It's hard to say, but sometimes very bizarre and strange things happen in Russian history. Today there's power, tomorrow it's gone. It vanished in 3 days. Maybe this time Graham is right and everything in Russia will vanish once again in 3 days, along with Putin. And we'll all be happy that we lived through it all. And once again, we've truly witnessed the complete collapse of a rotten, decaying empire that could have lived a normal, peaceful existence, but will absolutely never live normally.
Friends, our tandem is Sasha plus Dasha. Dasha plus Sasha airs twice a week. We discuss top topics and events. Support us with a like, a comment, and a subscription. In the comments, let us know where you're watching from and leave a few kind words to support our duo and the armed forces of Ukraine. Tell us what you think about the situation. Toponymist Alexander Demchenko. Sasha, thank you so much, and see you this Sunday.
Thank you, Dasha. See you next time. Bye.